telling me that on Saturday, 4 A-10s from the Fighting O's of the 104th Fighter Squadron will have a flyover because it's a 7:45 game. The flyover will actually take place during Gamecock Walk.
Oh, man. Love it. Thank you, Steve. Even more reason to be at Gamecock Walk on Saturday, which we know will be absolutely electric. Good to see everyone. Great to be back into in-season regular game week mode. The off week was really, really good for us. No question about it. On the field, got some really good work in last week on the field, in the meeting room, in the weight room as well. Got some great recruiting done. Anytime you can go on the road recruiting after a win like we had at Oklahoma, it's going to be a lot of fun. So there was great energy and excitement about Gamecock football going out on the road. I was out Wednesday afternoon at a practice, was in 3 different states on Thursday, went to a game Thursday night, was in 2 different states on Friday, went to a game Friday night, and great to be out on the road and get to be in high schools and go to some high school games and practices like I was able to do as well. So all of our coaches were on the road, which was great to be able to do. And then we all, the players had a long weekend, which they needed physically and mentally. Coaches, we had Saturday off, which will be our last off day until the end of the season. So we certainly took advantage of that, all of us. And then everybody got back in here on Sunday, players, coaches, staff, and full speed ahead on Texas A&M once we came back in here on Sunday. Got a big challenge this week. Coach Elko's done a phenomenal job in year one. This is a team that's operating at a high level in all 3 phases. Extremely talented, extremely well coached, coming off a huge win over LSU last Saturday night. They're doing all the things that you're supposed to do to win football games. I know you guys err more on the side of looking at the NCAA stats of everything and where people rank on all 100-plus teams. I look at the SEC stats because that's what we're judged on. And this is the greatest conference in the world, and there's no conference in America that has more competitive Saturdays with NFL players on the field than this league. So I look at what teams do in SEC games. So if you look at SEC versus SEC teams' stats, number 1 in the SEC in rushing offense, Texas A&M in SEC games. Number 1 in rushing defense, Texas A&M. Number 1 scoring offense, Texas A&M. Number 1 in turnover margin, Texas A&M. Rushing attempts, Texas A&M. I think red zone, they're number 1 in the SEC in touchdowns, in red zone percentage. I think 16 touchdowns and 20 trips. So you look at everything, SEC versus SEC games, which they've played 5 of them just like we have, and they're near the top in every category that directly equates to winning and losing. Turnover margin right there. They've only given the ball up 3 times in 5 SEC games. So they're doing the things that you have to do to win football games. Credit to the coaching staff and the players for the way they're performing. We have a big challenge, but optimistic about the opportunity that we have. We should be at our best on Saturday as well, in the sense that we're 7 games in. We're coming off a bye week. We're healthier than we've been. Before David asked, we're in pretty good shape from a health standpoint. Jerry Brown will be back this week, and Jules probably won't be. But other than that, we're in great shape. And we're healthier, we're more experienced, hopefully got better. Not hopefully, I know we got better over the off week, and we're going to need to be really good on Saturday night. But our guys are excited about the opportunity. Know it'll be an insane environment in Williams-Brice Stadium. Insane. We know that, but what matters is us performing and playing really well, coaching well, and we're hard at work on doing that. Got off to a good start Sunday and a really good day today on the field as well. Questions?
Shane, I know you guys only like to concentrate on the next game, but these next 5 will determine how the season is viewed, postseason, that kind of thing. So do you mention that at all, in any realm when you're talking to the guys about this next month is really going to determine how the season's looked at?
Yeah, I think every coach in America uses the "they remember November" thing. I think that's kind of universal as a coach. You say that. I was hearing that back at Tennessee back in 2001 when I was a GA for Philip Fulmer. He used to say it. But certainly we talked about it before this week, David, in that we've done a lot of really good to this point, and we've certainly had some heartbreaking losses and disappointments, but this team will be judged and remembered by November, and it's very true with this group as well. I told them the story last week that, I think back to 2 years at South Carolina where where we were and where we finished were different. I think back, I told them the story about 2007, and we were 6-1 and ranked, I think, 13th in the country, and went up to Chapel Hill, or 5-1, went up to Chapel Hill, beat North Carolina up there, came back the next week, had an ungodly amount of penalties, and lost to Vanderbilt at home. Didn't win a game the rest of the year. Lost to Clemson on the last second field goal, and didn't go to a bowl game. And we were 6-1 in the middle of October and ranked 13th. And then I told them the story that most of them were here, but a lot of them weren't. 2022, nobody thought we were worth a flip after that Florida game, and then we come back and have two of the wins that people will remember around here forever. And the way that team is remembered is because of what happened in November. The way the 2007 team is remembered, good or bad, is because of what happened in November. So we know that we have 5 games to finish the season, and it's all out there in front of us. So we don't talk about big picture other than that, and what matters is this week, just having a 1-0 mentality and doing everything we can this week to go 1-0. Is there a small spite that you're wearing that T-shirt with the Yankees down 3-0 in the World Series? Just happened to put it on today. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, it is 3-0, right? Is that what it is? Okay, sorry. I hadn't watched it. I just saw the score this morning. I got it.
Hey, Shane, sounds like you have had a very active bye week with recruiting and everything. When the players were in here, almost to a man, they said they would have preferred to have had a game last week because of the performance coming off of Oklahoma, and like, hey, when you have a hot hand, just keep them dealing. And from a coach's standpoint, I just want to know what your outlook is on that.
Yeah, I can see both sides of it. You certainly want to keep rolling, but I would hope that with the performance that we had at Oklahoma, we'd be able to keep rolling into the next game. And the way I looked at it, Rick, was we did some really good stuff against Oklahoma, but there's a lot that we can be better at offensively, defensively, and special teams that we needed to get back to work on. And it was good having a bye week last week, because now you're 7 games in. You can really analyze where you are, where you're not as good at, and where we need to be over these next 5 games. So we were able to really attack that last week. We did a little bit more in practice last week than what we did the previous bye week, just to try and stay, sharp and keep that momentum going. And we know that we need to perform better than what we did coming off the last off week, because we did not perform well coming off that. But that's behind us. Hopefully we've learned from it. And would I have loved to have kept going? Sure. Did I love a Saturday off? Absolutely. I did. But also knowing that what's coming these next 5 games, we better be ready to roll.
Shane, you talked about it at the opening, how that you guys are healthier than maybe in a while. What do you think the effect of the 2 bye weeks had in keeping that, and maybe, as you said, giving you the opportunity to self-scout and really make some changes on the fly a couple of times this year in order to be ready for now?
Yeah, I think it's good. The health part of it goes back to the summertime and the preseason that we had, and what our guys did leading into the season in order to, try and stay healthy like we had to this point. But certainly when you have 2 off weeks, it allows you – it's a long year and it's a grind in this league. There's no question about it. So when you're able to get away from it for a few days mentally and physically, that's helpful as well for your bodies. There's no question. A couple of the coaches commented on it, and I felt this way on this morning, but a couple of coaches commented on Sunday that we looked like a group that had a few days off as far as the energy and the speed we were playing with or practicing with on Sunday night and this morning as well. And you would hope so with that as well. Absolutely. When the first bye week, it came after the game 4, so you had 4 games at that point, but Lenoris had missed part of the Kentucky game, missed the whole second half of the LSU game, and missed the entire Akron game. So you're starting quarterback. There's not a huge body of work when you start self-scouting and things like that. So we've made progress since that point. There's no question we're a better team since that point. And I think having the 2 bye weeks certainly is beneficial to it makes the season longer. There's no question about it, but it's certainly beneficial to the mental health, the physical health, and the being able to analyze where you are and what we need to do in these next 5 games as we go into November.
After the Ole Miss game, something that was clearly very frustrating to you, and you said it, was that you had such a great week of practice. So how are you kind of ensuring that even with a great week of practice, that the actual game and what happens on Saturday doesn't look like it did after the last bye week?
Yeah, great question. Realizing that what you do throughout the week in practice and then in the meeting room, on the practice field, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, preparing with the right mindset and the right mentality gives you an opportunity to go play well on Saturday. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to play well. And, we've talked to our players about it, and that the way we performed out in Oklahoma was a direct reflection of the way that we prepared during the week. And then we put it all together and we went and played well, and it's going to be the same thing this week as well. Yes, you have a great week of practice that allows you the opportunity to go compete and hopefully be at your best. But then when you get out there in that arena on Saturday night, you have to play well and you have to coach well. And we didn't do a good enough job on either of those against Ole Miss the last time in there, and need to be better. But our guys are excited about being back at home, but also realizing, and one thing we talked about was just making sure that we minimize the distractions as well, because being back at home is different. Going out to Norman, Oklahoma, I didn't have a ton of people hitting me up for tickets other than maybe people we knew in Norman, and my wife is an angel, and she handles all that. But I can't look at my phone this week without somebody texting me wanting tickets, and I don't have any, so quit texting me and calling me. I don't have any. But if I'm getting that, I know our players are getting that, and it's just different. So making sure that we do a great job of eliminating distractions to go perform well on Saturday night, which is all that matters.
A couple players were in here talking about just how physical A&M is, how they like to get downhill, how they're looking forward to that. I guess, one, what do you notice about their physicality on tape? And two, does it help when kind of a bruising team like that falls directly after a bye week?
Yeah, no, our players are exactly right. That's what they are, and we pride ourselves on being a tough, physical football team. And I would hope when people watch us, they say the same thing about us. And there's no question that A&M does. On the line of scrimmage, those D linemen are freak shows, the 4 D linemen. The linebackers, both of them are really good players. The DBs have size. That stands out on tape. Offensively, they have size at receiver. Both quarterbacks can make plays. The tight ends play hard. They're physical guys. The offensive line is really impressive. But, it starts with them. When you talk about physicality, it starts with that running back, and he is a downhill back. I saw a stat the other day. I think he's averaging like 7 yards per carry, but 5 of those are after contact, meaning that he's averaging 5 yards after initial contact, which is insane. So they're a physical team. I know that's what Coach Elko wants this program and this team to be about, and they are. And if you love tough, gritty, physical football games, this is the one for you. And if you don't, then this ain't the place for you on Saturday night.
You mentioned after the first bye week, it was probably pretty tough to prepare because, Rocket had been injured. Lenoris was coming off an injury. With those guys healthy this bye week, was there anything you were able to do offensively preparing that you weren't able to do the first go-round?
Yeah, I think for us, it's going back and looking at where we need to be better and certainly working more on that. We did a lot of, third down work against the defense last week, and third down pressures and blitz periods and whatnot. You look at, okay, we got 5 games left. Here's kind of where we are as an offense, defense and special teams. But you asked a question about offense, where we are. What are some things that we need to do over these next 5 weeks? One, better, but maybe differently. As we look at personnel or we look at scheme, is there a scheme that we can be using that we're not right now that can help us and being able to really, dive into that with Lenoris and Rocket being where they are. And then certainly getting a head start on Texas A&M, which we were able to do 2 days last week on the practice field also. But it's absolutely better because that last bye week, coming off of it, we felt good about Rocket and Lenoris playing against Ole Miss, but it wasn't 100% by any stretch of the imagination. And now, they're farther along and have more experience, and it allows you to really dive in even more on your offense and what we need to do better in the month of November.
You mentioned that you did some recruiting during your bye week. I actually spoke to some of those in-house recruits that will be coming here this time next year. How excited for you to get those guys in here, and how much of an emphasis do you have keeping in-house talent in-house?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about the group of guys that are coming, the group of guys that are committed to us, the ones that we're recruiting right now that aren't committed yet. It's a really great group, and there'll be a bunch of them on that sideline on Saturday night that'll be here at the game, and I'll be looking at them thinking about, man, I wish y'all were out here with us as well, and they will be soon. But absolutely for us, it always starts with the state of South Carolina and keeping the best players in South Carolina at home, and it's pretty cool seeing guys from this state that are doing such great things for us right now, whether it be Mazio at receiver, or, I'm talking about just a freshman class or redshirt freshman. Lenore's playing quarterback, Josiah from over in Dillon playing, tackle, and then, you talk about the guys on the defensive line and all South Carolina guys, Tonka, TJ, Boogie. I know they're not freshmen, but on and on and on. I mean, I can't name I could, but I'm not going to name every single player on our team from South Carolina. But certainly when guys from South Carolina see guys from South Carolina doing big things, freshmen or not, it makes an impact, and it makes guys, have great pride in this state. I sent a video last week, I think it was of maybe one of you guys maybe put it out from Basketball Media Day, and it was some of our men's basketball players, Colin and some of those guys, talking about being from the state of South Carolina and what it means playing in that arena, being from this state. I sent that video to all high school football recruits that were recruiting from the state of South Carolina, because it's the same thing with football as well. And that's where it's always going to start for us. And I was out multiple states last week recruiting, but, we're always going to start right here in South Carolina for sure.
With A&M playing two quarterbacks this year pretty extensively, there's a lot of tape on both those guys with completely different skill sets. So it's kind of the process of preparing for either one of them and the challenge that both of them uniquely present to you.
Yeah, great question. I laugh, some people reach out to me Marcel Reed just arrived out of thin air, he had never played in an A&M uniform before, and there was so many people had texted me Saturday night and Sunday, the guy started 3 games this season and is a heck of a player, and beat Florida in Gainesville, and beat Arkansas in Dallas, and beat Bowling Green as well. It's a challenge. When you go back to the Oklahoma game, both those quarterbacks we were prepared for, but they were very similar, and Oklahoma's offense really didn't change a whole lot with whichever one was in the game. And not that A&M completely changes depending on which one is in there, but it's different. There's no question about it. I think Reed the other night, threw 2 passes, I think, the whole time he was in here. And he's on tape a lot making defenders look silly. And, there's a clip in the Florida game backed up in their end zone, and he scrambles up the middle, and there's a Florida linebacker that has him dead to rights, and he completely just – what do the kids say? Broke his ankles, whatever you want to call it. He can make people look silly in the open field, and he's a talented guy that can throw. I know they didn't throw a lot with him the other night, but he can make throws. And then Connor's obviously a really talented guy, and they named him as the starter going into the season for a reason. So it is a challenge because they are different skill sets, and not that one can run and the other one can't. I'm not saying that, but they both can throw. They both can can run the ball and throw. And they will do some different things with Reed in there for sure. So you've got to have a good plan for both of them. And for us, it starts with whoever's at quarterback. We got to affect him. We got to tackle him. And then we've got to be able to tackle the running back, because that's what they want to do, is hand the ball off to not just 8, but 5 as well, and let them get going.
Shane, Gamecock fans online were also pretty busy during the bye week. It looks like they were trying to come up with a nickname for your defense, and I think they landed on the Carolina Reapers. Have you guys seen that at all, and what do you think about that?
I have not seen that. I tried to actually not look at my phone at all on Saturday as well and put it down for one day. I hadn't seen that. Did you ask our players that? Did they like it?
I haven't been able to yet.
All right. Makes sense. Halloween theme too, with Halloween coming up, I guess. I like it as long as they can keep playing well. That's what we need to be focused on, and as long as we keep playing well, people can call them whatever they want.
Shane, you talked about November being such an important month earlier for this team. You guys have had a lot of success in your time here at Carolina during this month. Is there one thing in particular that you've kind of noticed that you guys have done well in games when you're winning in November?
I'm trying to think things that we've done. I would say not turn the ball over, but we threw a pick six first series of the game against Clemson. I think that was a November game, so we didn't do a great job of that one. I don't know if it's anything specifically that I look at. It's a great question. I think the bigger thing for us is it just goes back to we pride ourselves on being a team that gets better as the year goes on, and we've always been that. And you know, it's important for me as a coach, and I tell the players every year that it would be a shame if we're the same team in September that we are in November. Like, we need to continue to get better, and I think a big part of that goes back to the way we practice, the way we train in the weight room during the season. We try and get stronger, and we work to get better in practice as well. Yes, it's preparing for an opponent, but we don't do a ton of scout team work during practice. We do a ton of good on good against each other and work against each other in practice and work our young guys a lot on Sunday nights after practice to continue to bring them along. And I think that's more of the reason we've had success in November and played fairly well, is that we've been a team that continues to get better as the year goes, and hopefully we're at our best in November. And we know we're going to need to be this year with these 5 games coming up in this month.
Hey, Shane, you were just talking about the need to hold on to in-state talent, bringing a guy up from the past. What do you remember about Alshon Jeffrey? And are there any attributes in the current wide receiver group that you see that say, hey, that reminds me of Alshon?
Yeah, I remember a lot about Alshon. That was a lot of time that I spent getting to know him and recruiting him. I think the biggest thing that stands out with Alshon is just, and I think it's a common quality that I've seen in all the great players that I've been around, is they don't let all the recruiting hoopla go to their heads. And now, back when we were recruiting Alshon, there was no such thing as, you know, X or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. You know, there was phones and emails, and that was about it. And I don't even think you were allowed to text recruits back then. So, but the one thing about Alshon, to be a guy that was so highly decorated, so highly recruited, he didn't get caught up in all that. And I would say the same thing about Marcus Lattimore and other, you know, great players like that. They were just football guys that knew they were talented, but they didn't have to go around, look at me all the time. And Alshon's always been that way, without a doubt. And in regards to this year's class, you know, obviously he had great size and great ball skills. When you look at the recruits that we have, we're bringing in some guys that are committed to us that has some size. There's no question about it. But, you know, hopefully just the ball skills for sure. And then Alshon was a guy that, you know, even if a defender was on him and he was covered, he wasn't covered. You know, throw the ball up and give him a chance to go make a play. And we see that quality in a lot of these receivers that we're recruiting right now, that, you know, a defender may be in position, doesn't necessarily mean you've got them covered. And that's what you could say about Alshon, and that's a great quality, and see that certainly in some of these guys also. I think he's coming this weekend, as a matter of fact. Alshon will be. Still talk to him regularly. So
I guess that's not a coincidence. He'll be here this weekend. With the breaking ankles, was there a surprise when your video dropped Saturday? Or were you expecting that?
Yeah, it was, to be honest with you. So we do some of our team meetings on Friday nights. They actually show the players that. I didn't know about it the night before the Kentucky game. So every once in a while, we mix it up, but every once in a while, we'll, just to keep it loose and fun, we'll show high school highlights in our Friday night team meeting. And usually it's of the players, obviously, but the Friday night before the Kentucky game, they snuck mine in there as well. It was a shorter version of what Justin King put out on Saturday, but hopefully the players got a kick out of that as well. And then we did it again before the Oklahoma game. We had Sean Elliott's high school highlights on there, Demo's college highlights. I mean, it was awesome. But I did not know that was going out on Saturday. Justin King tipped me off, I think, late Friday night that there might be some good content coming on Saturday. And then I woke up Saturday morning or whenever that was and tried to put my phone down, but I did look at it for that when I found out that was out there. But I do appreciate some of the references. I saw Travis Hunter references being a two-way player. I had a recruit text me that I was giving off Cooper Cup vibes as well, which was a compliment. Most of the DBs that were recruiting texted me to tell me that I would be strapped. I think that's their term for covered like a glove as well. But yes, there was some ankle breaking going on that too, on that video.
Two things. First, you mentioned the scheme when you were talking. Were there changes this week to the scheme or what you guys are doing?
Now, Jordan, do you think I'm really going to answer that one?
Yeah.
No, but I think you're always looking, I wouldn't say changes to scheme, but you're always looking at how we can be better and more efficient. And certainly we need to be better, not just on offense, but in other areas, defensively, special teams. And you're always looking at where we can be better, what's the next step. You know, we've been doing a lot of this offensively, defensively, and special teams. What's the next thing off of this? You know, so you're certainly always looking to do that. So are we going to look like a completely different football team out there Saturday night? I don't think so. But will there be some tweaks that you always adjust, whether it be game plan specific based on what A&M does or tweaks that we made, you know, throughout the bye week to continue to try and be more efficient? Absolutely.
Thank you. Second thing, this next week will be the first time you're a head coach during an election year. Do you do anything? Do you talk to the players about, you know, voting? Do you let them out a little early to go to the polls? I don't even know how many are registered or anything like that, but
Yeah.
do anything for election day?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I remember the last election day I was at Oklahoma as well. And to answer your question, encourage them to vote. I already have. It's one thing I was able to do during the bye week was get out and vote. So my wife and I went last week and did that here on campus and was simple. So encourage everyone to get out and vote as well. Don't try and get into it, obviously, too much from a political standpoint, but there's some things that we did certainly over the summer and that the NCAA kind of oversees on some things as well. So no, in the sense that we have is it next week election? Yeah. So we have Vanderbilt next week. Is that right? So we got Vanderbilt next week, and we'll be focused on that one. But the great thing with our schedule is we're done on Tuesdays about 12 noon with the players, and they have the whole day and outside of academic obligations. So we'll encourage them to get out and do their civic duty if they haven't already, and we're here to help, you know, support that process as much as we can. All right. Thank you, guys and ladies.